All right. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're so glad to see you, and we hope that you're doing well and are healthy and are staying healthy and are making good decisions. It's pretty challenging times out there for a variety of reasons, and at the same time, there's a lot of progress with the vaccinations opening up. So it's always a nuanced sort of enthusiasm or tempered enthusiasm that people display, right, as we move forward. And we just wanted to remind everybody that you are not alone, and we have these community events so that we can share our experiences. So definitely make sure to look around the room and network and make new connections, and then reestablish old connections, of course, because that's the way we feel a better sense of comfort and empowered. And that is the point of our Gateway series. So of course, I am Soyeon Choi on behalf of the Asian Business League. I serve as general counsel. I said, of course, I meant, so of course, we want to acknowledge our partners in the Gateway series, the Asian Leaders Alliance, ALA, and then also NAP. We are all united in creating a sense of community, and so please check out our organizations and and connect. Okay, I'm just distracted by some dogs and people's sort of like backgrounds. It's so good to see people healthy and in a safe space. Okay, all right. So we're so pleased and excited to welcome Julie Sumiki. She is a community member that was first introduced to our Asian Business League's chair, Victor Shin. And and you met through BNI, yes. And she met through BNI, which if you don't know BNI, look them up. They're one of the biggest networking organizations in the world. I want to say in the world because they seem very large, but my experiences are obviously limited to California. So Julie, I love your bio, Julie, because it gives me the excuse to daydream about Hawaii. Julie was the first college graduate in her family with the aid of no less than 14 scholarships and old-fashioned elbow grease, a strong work ethic. She was able to graduate from the University of Hawaii with a degree in business administration with a focus on marketing. Julie somehow moved away from Hawaii to the Bay Area, from the Big Island of Hawaii to the Bay Area. I don't know why you would do that. She's happily married to her husband, Anthony, and they have 2 children, Alyssa and Ethan. And her dream, actually is my dream as well, is to visit Iceland someday to see the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights. So the way we usually conduct our events is to, of course, have our speaker present, but then also allow everybody to engage with questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in chat. You can drop them in chat generally, or you can drop them in chat specifically to me or to Ramon. I apologize for any sort of like awkward, verbalization in my presentation, but I'm just so excited and very pleased to see everybody here. Thank you so much for attending, and yes, welcome, Julie.
Awesome. Thank you, Soyeon. And when Victor reached out, I was so humbled because I learn a lot of things from BNI, and I am so excited to share it with you. So just starting off, thanking all of the organizations that's allowing me the opportunity to speak and share my experience, ABL, NAP, Asian Leaders Alliance. And I did want to let you know that Victor said it's my show. So I have one of my great networking partners from BNI, Gail from Take Wing Consulting. She was prior a director consultant. So I'm going to give you her bio, but let me make sure I get all set up with the presentation and sharing screens before I get into the bio, and then we'll do a little agenda, what we're going to talk about and teach today or just share. So one moment, I'm going to start presenting.
And welcome, Gail.
Yes, and huge welcome to Gail. And I'm so appreciative that she said yes to helping me with this presentation. I had asked Gail because Gail is such an awesome networking partner. I always learn a lot from her when she comes to visit our chapters. And she really helped launch our Oakland chapter. The chapter needed a little push, and Gail was there to help launch the chapter so that we were able to start our Leads networking group. I think we started with 30, or well, we had 20 and we grew to 30 members. So Gail was an integral part of that, and I wanted her to also share because a lot of the material that I'm sharing is really what I learned from BNI. Part of my journey and experience, I've been networking for 20 years, whether I knew it in college or not. To this point in my career, I actually became a State Farm agent through a networking opportunity that I got at BNI. So there's all these little things that you have to be open to and look for. And so with that, I'm going to share a little bit about Gail Knott before we start the presentation and kind of let you know the flow of what we'll be talking about. So Gail Knott from Takewind Consulting, she coaches purpose-driven consultants in teaching what they know through online courses. She is an expert at building a business around your life and has over 20 years of experience in marketing, sales, and personal development. When she's not working, Gail enjoys traveling to national parks in her RV and homesteading in Marin County with her husband. I love their Instagram, seeing all those cute photos of their homestead, and then also her beautiful 2-year-old daughter and their animals. So with that, today we're going to be covering some information on Networking 101. 4 different topics: making introductions, getting referrals, tracking contacts, and managing our systems. So for me, networking, what is it? I view it as getting to know someone and building that trusting relationship. I'm from Hawaii, so I like talking story. Ramon will get this, and learning about, the individual's background, who they are, and being how I can help. So that's the way I approach networking. And I know there's probably a lot of networking experts here in this group. So hopefully you'll pick up some tips from us that would can help boost or maybe improve some of the areas, because I'm not an expert, so I brought an expert for some of the systems that we're going to share. So what I'd like to share first is there's different types of networking groups, right? We're here, you guys are part of a professional organization. So that's one piece where you learn and develop, but there's 6 other ways that you can network. So I'm just going to cover a couple of them. Social media networking, that's easy, right? We have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And usually with that, I use it as a way to keep engaged with my customers, let them know what's happening. And of course, if customers are leaving me messages, I'm acknowledging them, replying to their comments, but it's a way to brand yourself, right? And your identity. The way that I love networking on Facebook is through Facebook groups. I don't know if you guys use that, but one of the areas that I found very helpful to help me grow my business is joining Facebook groups. I have a couple different areas. I have kids. So as a mom for my city, there's a Casher Valley Mothers group. In that group, everyone is trying to help each other out. There's advice for new moms, advice for people who are looking for schools. There's everyone asking for recommendations, right? I am renovating my kitchen. Who do you know? So that's an easy way to network and connect, do a connection. The other one that is association groups, right? So if you have an association, you can make connections there. I even go as far as doing the buy nothing group because, you know, networking is about giving. Buy nothing groups online, it's about giving as well. It's not about receiving. It's more like, how can I help you with this economy? So those are the three. Does anyone else, to make it interactive, have networking groups and in social media that they utilize for networking? You can stick them in the chat, and I'm going to ask Gail for help to look, and Soo-young as well. So that's one piece. The second one is casual contact networks. And that's the Chamber of Commerce. We all have a Chamber of Commerce in our city. Before State Farm, I used to be a payroll consultant, so I covered different cities. So I've actually been a member of 7 different chambers. And the Berkeley Chamber differs from the Castro Valley Chamber. So you really have to evaluate who's in the group and how you approach it. For the chambers, the best way to get exposure, in my experience, is to become an ambassador. I know Gail used to be ambassador of Oakland Chamber of Commerce. I am an ambassador of the Castro Valley Chamber of Commerce. That really gets you increased exposure, and you get to network with new members and help with the mentoring, right, where you can help make introductions for them. The other one is strong contact networks. So this is when you have just one person of each profession. You typically have a group that has an agenda, does some professional networking. I did invite my mother-owned business networking group. So if some of my fellow members are here, hello. So that group is made up of Castro Valley moms. So we all, are in the same boats with balancing work and kids, but also being able to pass referrals. So I have an accountant in the group. Typically when I'm doing reviews with customers, we're looking at what they have, and sometimes the question comes up for accounting, especially with small business owners, accounting and bookkeeping. So I have referral sources that I see once a month that I know, like, and trust, that if I make that introduction, I know that they're going to take great care of my customers. That does require commitment, right? Because the more you show up, that really just builds your credibility and people get to know you and how you work. The other piece is community service clubs. Lions, Rotary are 2 of the biggest ones that I think of. They're service organizations. You do community work, but you also build relationships in those type of groups. And the last one is the Leads Networking Group, and that's BNI, where I met Gail. It is one of the largest networking groups worldwide, but they are very structured, and the purpose is the philosophy is givers gain. The more you give, you help your community, and you just uplift and build your community as well, where there's only one person of each profession in the group. So that is how I met Gail and her expertise. So I think we were going to, right, Gail, do a little check-in and see what other groups. Oh, I forgot to do one shout out. I'm sorry. As we're doing this, if you take little notes regarding how many networking or groups are you a part of, we would like you to share that in the chat. I forgot to mention one of my other Leads networking groups. I have 3 besides. So BNI, I have a Mother's Networking Group that we meet once a month, and my Trustegrity group that's located in the Tri-Valley. It's also one of the Leads groups that only has 1 member per profession. And I know I have some of those members here in the room as well. So I want to say hi, welcome, and thank you for coming to support. All right, and then technology-wise, Gail, do I stop unsharing to see the chat, or Soo-young, do you see anyone sharing anything in the chat regarding what groups they're a part of?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Wow, we got some robust answers and participation. So definitely casual contact networking. It gets a nod, as well as church groups, sports teams and leagues and hobby groups and books clubs and PTA and masterminds. I don't know what masterminds is, but I'm gonna circle back. We can ask for a description. And then also professional associations, and then a lot of social media portals like LinkedIn and Instagram as well. And what is masterminds?
A mastermind is a group of peers with a common goal to help each other. So for example, I'm in a mastermind for people who are just starting a podcast. So some of us are trained, some are not, but we're helping each other be able to do that and answer each other's questions.
Oh, thank you. Learn something new every day. Okay, and then also people have grow their networks through service as well, community service. That's basically everything.
Thank you for sharing. I figured out where to look. Sorry, I have dual screens. I'm like, wait, where's the chat?
No problem. That's what we're here for.
Awesome, awesome. So the next item and the that we're gonna be checking in on, I'm gonna hand it over to Gail to talk about networking partners and those introductions.
Yeah, so networking can happen anywhere. It can, as you can see, it can even happen at church. It can happen on the soccer field, on the golf course. And it's an opportunity where you have two or more people who are just talking. And then while you're talking, you can see if there's an opportunity to connect people. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to help someone by connecting them to someone else when they have a need. So to be a good networking partner, you do want to learn something about them, so that, let's say, so Julie is a State Farm agent. And if someone said, I'm looking for someone to review my policies, who do you know? If I introduce them to Julie, I don't want to just say, well, I want you to meet my friend Julie because she's really nice and she'll take good care of you. But I don't know anything else to make that connection. So it would be good for me to know a little bit more about Julie. So when the opportunity comes where I can refer her or connect her with someone, I can say something more substantial that will compel someone to actually go through it and to call Julie or to email her, or vice versa, giving them permission for Julie to contact them. So I'm going to go through these slides just a little fast because I want to make sure we have time to do the exercise. So Julie, if you can help me out, and yeah. So you'll want to know some items like the person's background and experience. So how long has Julie been a State Farm agent? What is her background? How does she help people? And I don't need to know all the details of what she does in her work, but just something a little about that. If you're not in business to business, maybe you're more networking for better job opportunities, then I would like to know a little bit more about what your profession is, as well as what type of experience or what type of new positions are you looking for, so that when I'm talking to people, I can listen for that. So what's the person's background and experience? Okay, Julie. What's their philosophy of customer service or their type of work? And that's a little deeper, and it just gets me to be able to know what makes this person tick, what's their core values. And it allows me to introduce someone with a little bit more of that, a little bit more authenticity and more of who this person is as a person, and not just their job title. So what you could ask them, what's important about you with your what's important for you in the type of work that you provide, or what's your philosophy behind this? So whatever question fits your way of asking, I would recommend just digging a little bit deeper and find out what their why is. So, and then you'll want to just know maybe about 3 somethings that they're looking for. Are they looking for clients? Are they looking for company contacts? Are they looking to do informational interviews in a particular field? But just some keywords, so that when you can put that, again, when that opportunity comes across your way, it'll be like a trigger. You'll remember, oh yes, Julie was asking for something like this, and then I can make that introduction. So now we're gonna do a little type of exercise. You're gonna get to know someone else in the room. So we're gonna break you out into pairs, random pairs, and you're gonna have the opportunity, you're gonna have 5 minutes to introduce yourself. And you want to make it as succinct as possible because we do only have 5 minutes, but in a way that something easy that they can remember. And then the other person will be able to introduce themselves as well. And if you have time, you could even just practice saying that introduction. Because when you're just getting to know someone, the words may not exactly fall in line. But if you have that time, you'll have time to practice as well. So how would you like to be introduced and to whom?
Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. I was gonna tell John Lee that the mask is the new aesthetic, so hey, we're all used to it. We all expect it. You look wonderful. Anyways, we're back. I hope everybody enjoyed the breakout sessions, and we return it to Julie and Gail to follow up.
Well, echoing Soo-Young's sentiments, I hope everyone had fun in the breakout session. It was nice for me to get to know Ben, and he had a really concise statement of what he was looking for. He said 100 employees, medium-sized business. He gave me the revenue, and he even gave me his referral partners. Like, I want to connect with investment bankers and medium to small businesses who are looking to grow. So and get investments to grow. So I'm like, wow, I love it. I love it. I told you we had some seasoned networking partners in the room already. So what we're going to cover next is just, you made the introduction, you're establishing the relationship, like and trust someone, and what do you do? Or how do you find someone, a recommendation for that person, or how do you help that person, right? So based on what you learn, we're really looking to spot the need. For me, I really appreciate, I have one of my realtors in my networking group, just to share a quick story. She and I are in the same Facebook group for moms, and she saw someone who posted, hey, I'm looking for this, and she was the first to reply saying, hey, I know an amazing insurance agent, meet Julie, she helps me, and she gave a little testimonial. So that's great, right? You're just looking for those needs. The other piece is listening for complaints, right? If you hear of a complaint, and one of the big ones that I hear sometimes as I'm looking at people's websites is, oh, I need to update my website for some of my small business owners. And I say, hey, I know someone that I can introduce you to. But besides, keeping an ear out and spotting the need is really what the next piece is, getting consent. You want to make sure you are getting consent to do the referral, because let's say you are at a dinner party sitting next to someone and you hear that they're going to buy a house, and you just launch into, hey, I know a great realtor and this, but guess what? Did they already have someone helping them? It's actually a family member. So it's just not the right timing for them. I'm sure they appreciate the information, but you really want to get the consent first if they are looking for that recommendation. Hey, I know you heard you're buying a house. Are you working with a realtor? If not, I know of someone that is great, and it's exactly what Gail said. You know them, you're giving the credentials, but you want to hear that yes first before kind of going for the introduction. The other piece is making a move. So I really appreciated how that realtor made the introduction for me. She didn't just tag me in the Facebook, because this is really soft, right? It's a soft introduction. She didn't just tag me, she did a little testimonial. So that increases the chances. The other piece I really appreciate is if someone is sending a recommendation or introduction for me, they are sending an email for both of us saying, hey, Julie, meet Gail. Gail helps, and then putting a little blurb about what Gail can do. The other, of course, is if you're meeting in person, not now, I know, but if you're in person, that does increase the likelihood as well. Anything to add, Gail, for that one piece? Personal testimonial, oh, personal phone call, of course. And
Yeah. When you're getting the consent, you could even just find out what's the best way to for me to make that connection. Some people are great with email, some people prefer text, some people say LinkedIn message. So it's just I like to find out from both people if they want the connection or if this is the best time for the connection, and then how to actually connect the two people to make it happen.
perfect, thank you. So the next piece is, you made the connection. That's great. How do you keep track? So I'm going to turn it back over to Gail for keeping track networking systems that she uses to share some of her knowledge.
Yeah. So as you're meeting people, what I do to keep track of actually not everyone, but the people I really want to stay in contact with, whether they are someone who might know someone who can who would be able to hire me in the right position, or maybe they're referring, there could be a great referral partner for me for my business. That as I meet people, I pretty much categorize them as A, B, and C. So the C contacts are the ones, they were nice to meet, but we had nothing in common. So it was nice to meet them. The A's and B's, so the other 2/3, I connect with on LinkedIn. And something I do is if I'm able to get an RSVP list, or maybe I just met them in the chat or I saw their name, then I'll just be able to look them up on LinkedIn and connect with them there. And LinkedIn is kind of my overall database for my professional contacts. I've chosen to not connect with anyone I've never met. And online, I mean it online as well. If they just contact me out of the blue, if we have nothing in common, I've never met them, I won't accept the connection yet, because I don't want to mess up my database. These are just people I've met somewhere or in a Zoom format. So those are my A's and B's. And then my A's, I actually put them in a CRM. So you may have heard of a CRM like Salesforce or something, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. It could just be a spreadsheet. And I'll show you what I've been using. And then these are like my hot people, maybe just 10, 12 people at most that I really want to stay in contact with, because they can be that opening for a next position. For example, I was just meeting with someone who was looking to connect for a possible pharmacist position. So if I meet someone who is a hospital administrator, that would be a very hot position. I definitely want to put them on the A category. Or for me as a business coach, I'm looking for people who are starting new businesses. So meeting business attorneys and bookkeepers and CPAs, those are my hot connections. So they would go in my A file, and I put them on my CRM. As I'm meeting these new people, you meet them in a group like this usually. I connect with them on LinkedIn or by email and just ask them, would you be open to a 15 or 20-minute Zoom or phone call just to get to know each other better? And we talk just like you did in your chat, in your breakout, was just getting to know a little bit more about their business or their career, what are good connections for them, who are good connections for them, that philosophy. So the same questions we had at the very beginning, I would be able to go a little deeper in this 20 minutes. And then I can repeat those questions for myself. I would answer those questions for myself. And then I put them in this networking CRM. So let me show you what that looks like. I have an overview, big overview. Oh, this is just a sample LinkedIn message. So I met Angela at a Zoom networking event for the Marin Women at Work. And I just had this simple message. It was a pleasure seeing you at the MWAW meeting, and I sent that with the connect request. And then she replied back, and the following messages were about setting up that Zoom meeting. And then this is an overall view of the CRM. I use a program called ClickUp to organize all my projects and tasks. Asana is another popular one, and they're both free, which is great. There are CRMs out there. I mentioned Salesforce, but I think for this type of thing, it's just a little too complicated. So it's spreadsheet is fine. You can use a project management system, maybe even some sort of formal to-do list. But this is what I use. And then next slide, you're going to see some of the columns up closer. So on the my left, I have the different stages from new contact to we have that first meeting, the first phone call or Zoom meeting, anything that we want to follow up on, they go to follow up. And they usually stay in follow up until there's an opportunity, whether they have an opportunity for me or maybe I have an opportunity for them. And then we get into alliance where it's maybe something like the relationship that Julie and I have where she had a speaking opportunity and she wanted some help with it. So she would definitely be in the alliance category, because maybe we could do this all the time, Julie, and go to all the different groups around the country. But she would be in that alliance where it's a really strong relationship. You might only have one or two people there if that's completely fine. On the other side, I have status. So I like to keep track initially how they were referred. And now that I look at this, I might even put that in a separate field. For anyone who loves spreadsheets or database, any database nerds here. So I think I'm going to put the networking group or referred in a different field. But the status just gives me an action. What am I supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to call them. I'm supposed to set up a plan what we're going to do, or I'm supposed to actually do something when they're in implement. And then evaluate, I feel, is a missing status or a missing action that people don't necessarily do. Like, for example, maybe Julie and I worked on a project together and maybe it didn't go so well. And sometimes what business professionals will do is they just kind of, just like in the personal relationships, they might ghost each other. So rather than ghosting each other, I can go to Julie. I'm like, I'm really sorry that didn't work out. How can we do this better next time, if there is a next time? So I think it's really important, especially in our professional communication, is to leave that open, to approach them with humility and just ask, how can I do better? And then that way we keep the relationship strong and we don't have to burn any bridges or make them disappear. The other columns are just ways I track, completely optional, but just ways of track of this can be a very valuable connection for me. And if I wanted to, I could put the actual dollar amounts to these business contacts.
Perfect. Thanks, Gail. See, Gail has an amazing systems. I'm old school. I have Excel, and I do. State Farm provides Salesforce for as our CRM system, so I do keep track in there. But being able to tabulate and see where your biggest referral sources are coming from and who's referring you the most, that's where where to devote your time. Because if you're doing those 6 different networking groups, hope you're not doing all of them, because I don't know when you would sleep. But it allows you to spend the time in the groups that actually either give you fulfillment, or there is some business mutual networking that it's just synergistic. So part of Gail's follow-up, she said LinkedIn. So here's the system that I use from when I meet someone at a networking group and I want to reconnect. It's called the Ivan Meisner 24. I have a typo. 24, 7, and 30. So what it is send a follow-up within 24 hours. You can do it via email. Ivan Meisner recommended a handwritten note. If you can do that, great. It's pick whatever system that you're going to do consistently. 7 days, you send them a social media invitation to connect. And then within 30 days, exactly what Gail said, schedule that time to connect in person on Zoom, learn more about them, and they can learn more about you and follow the system that we talked about. The other piece that I really tools-wise that has been helping me is I signed up for Calendly. I love it because it gives the other person availability, so you're not going back and forth like when are you available to meet? The other piece that I use is Followup Zen. It's a website that reminds you. So you can either put a calendar in, notification, 7 days, connect with them on a social media platform, or you can use the system which will send you an email. I use my email as more of my task list. So this system will send me a follow-up on 7 days later and say, hey, reconnect with Suyin. The other piece is, we're not meeting in person, but I don't know about you guys. When I used to attend networking groups, I'd get stacks of cards sometimes, and it would go to the business card graveyard is what I call it, because my staff was like, what is all these boxes of business cards that you have? And it's accumulated over 15 years, right? So I'm slowly working on weeding them out. Some of them are old, but now you actually have an app, scannable, that I found very helpful. You can scan business cards with this app. And if the person is on LinkedIn, it will actually pull up their LinkedIn profile, and there's a little button that says connect on LinkedIn. So that has been helpful for me when we were meeting in person and actually getting business cards. So I'm looking forward to that. So here's one thing that I wanted to touch base really quickly on is your first impressions, right? Your online presence. How does your reputation look online? Right now, when we're meeting virtually, you may not have the opportunity to connect with someone immediately, especially in a group setting, but you may kind of look them up online, right? If you didn't get their business card. So when you're looking at your online presence, for my business owners, I just say, hey, making sure that your web properties, that's your business page, is updated. Is it easy to contact you? Is your phone number buried in there, or is it easy that says, hey, here's my email contact? I appreciate also, I've seen some consultants that have their schedule available as well. It's already embedded. So if you want to schedule an appointment with them, you can go onto their webpage and schedule an appointment. The other piece is your social media. I started working with a firm because I really struggled with consistency. I have probably 4 different networking groups. I'm on the chamber board. I have 2 kids, 12 and 9. I have a busy life. So when I was doing my own social media, it was not consistent. It was sporadic. I'd do really great posting, and then it'd be crickets. So I actually utilized a resource that we have to be more consistent with the social media presence. And that really just builds your brand, right? People say, oh, look, Julie's there. And it's really the soft, I'm here to help. It enables people to connect with you. So that's the piece. When I look at someone's business page, I have to tell you just a quick story. There was a buy one, get one from Vitality Bowls. And I looked at the Vitality Bowls in Dublin, their business page. The last post that they had on their Instagram was from 2020. And I'm like, is the business still around? So that's one. They are still around. Great news. I got my free buy one, get one. But when I looked at their social media, it wasn't consistent, right? It's kind of like if you have old information on there, then you might as well take it down. It's my opinion. But anyway, this is just an example also regarding web reputation. If someone's Googling you, I always say that's one way to tell as well. Have you Googled yourself recently? What pops up? For mine, it's great. It has a picture of my team. It has our number of reviews, all positive, 5 stars. On my webpage, it has the phone number right at the top, making it easy for whether it be clients, networking partners to connect with me. And then Gail also posted an example, so I'm going to let her explain this one.
Sure, I have 2 examples here. One is for someone who is looking for a position. And so it's marked, it might be a little small, but under highlights, you could see that Jung-Hoon Lee is looking for open roles. So that depending on where you're at professionally, you can make that public information. If it's still private, maybe you're maybe you're employed and you don't want your employer to know you're looking for possible positions in the future. You can at least still update your profile so you have a professional headshot, you have a nice image on the top header portion, and the information is filled out like almost like a resume. If you're a business owner, I would recommend even having some sort of lead generation or loss leader that's available that people can contact you for in the contact info. So if you have a free book, a free quote, a free demo, something like that, where there's no risk for someone to try it out, I would recommend putting that in your contact info too. And you could take advantage of that header. It probably wouldn't look that great having something on your header if you're looking for a new job, but as a business owner, I would recommend taking advantage of that real estate and put something on that top header on your LinkedIn. And your LinkedIn profile will always show up on the first page of Google when someone is Googling your name. So just something to be aware of, even if you don't have yours public. If people are searching for your name, that can show up. For any of your personal accounts, I would just recommend just making them private so that they can't be found on search, or they have to add you and you have to approve them. And then that way, that's your personal life is your personal life.
Awesome. Well, so that's some tips and tricks for our networking systems. And just as a wrap up, a deep networking relationship requires a level of personal knowledge and connection, and that does take time to develop. So, if you meet someone, do some coffee meetings, lunch, schedule some Zoom meetings. And to wrap up, any questions? But before we do that, I am going to go to the quotes that Gail sent me, because we'll finish off with the quotes and go to questions.
So your network is your destiny, a reality backed up by many studies in the newly emergent fields of social networking and social contagion theory. We are the people we interact with. Keith Frazee.
So thanks so much for having us both. This is our contact information. Any questions?
And if you would like to connect with other people, I would recommend putting your LinkedIn profile on the chat, and we can connect with each other there.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's like an amazing, powerful quote there at the end too, especially about, it's the old truism, you are the company that you keep. And so to the extent that you can create a network that you obviously have control over, it's important to represent yourself and then also invite trusted people into your network. Okay, so as everybody has been recommended, drop your LinkedIn profile into the chat. And actually, I do have a couple of questions. One is a very broad question, and it's more from a new networking perspective, is how to overcome sort of shyness, or, it's so funny because it's very trendy right now to automatically characterize yourself as like an introvert or something. But I think that networking transcends that sort of personality profile. So let's focus in on shyness, right? Do you have any tips for how to overcome initial, shyness or friction, social friction?
Yeah, and interesting thing to know is that actually most people are introverts. The extroverts are a minority in our culture. So I think it's important to just know you're not alone. I used to say I hate networking. And my previous business, I was a networking expert. That's how Julie and I met. Was my specialty was on networking and referral marketing. And I hate networking because I don't like the big rooms of people and you walk in there and you don't know anyone. I was just so awkward. I always didn't like that. So my tips are, when we do start networking in person, if you can, bring a friend. And then you have a buddy. Hopefully this buddy is more extroverted. So what I would do is I bring a friend who's very extroverted. She had no problem introducing herself to everyone. And I would just follow along and let her introduce me to other people. When it comes to these Zoom events, I really like the breakout rooms, which is why I do it. I feel much more comfortable talking to someone one-on-one, or like twos or threes, versus a big room of people too. I don't want to speak up or say anything. I might even just participate in the chat versus participate in like the open talking in the beginning of a thing. And if there's someone in the group who you're interested in meeting, you could just direct message them through, if the chat is open that way, and just say, I'm interested in what you do, or I think we might be able to help each other. Let's connect. And then you could pass on your LinkedIn contact or your email address that way. And then you get to talk to someone one-on-one at a different time.
I've heard Gail's tips before, so that's why I asked her to share. I kind of thought, I'm like, Gail, I don't like the big rooms as much. I don't necessarily have a buddy. So what I do is I actually look for the wallflowers sometimes. So if I'm not in the, like, I'm going to dive into a group of 3 mood, I look for someone who's standing by themselves. And that's always a great person to, I open a conversation and see what they do. And I'm sure they're feeling the same way that I am, but it depends on my mood. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let's go get it. And I can weasel my way into a conversation. And maybe weasel is not the right word, but you know what I mean. You hear what they're talking about, and you have something to contribute. And it's really finding that common ground, and that's always helped me. Hawaii is always a good opener for me. Just being from Hawaii, and people love Hawaii, so finding a common ground is one things I always recommend for someone who hasn't done networking before.
Oh, that's a good, those are good tips. Those are good tips. Buddy up with a friend, and or find the wallflowers and meet them first. There was another question about, okay, wow. Okay, we got some questions. Yeah, what are some good questions to use when you're networking? Some lead-in questions, maybe.
Yeah, people tend to go right into the "what do you do" question, which is fine. And if you'd like to do something, ask something a little different, you could ask something like, what do you like to do for fun? What do you like to do when you're not working? What's your favorite thing about your work? And when someone gets to talk about their favorite thing that they love about what they do, it gets people talking.
I like how did you get involved with the organization, especially, or how did you start in your career path? Because that's one thing that, you hear people's stories and what interests them about being in the same room at that moment. So those are typically my 2 go-tos.
Oh, interesting. I'm impressed. They are a lot more, they're not superficial. It's a lot more personable. That's the word. So thank you. Okay, another question is, I'm going to jump around a little bit. Do you have any specific tips? Oh yeah. Do you have any specific tips for effective networking given the virtual environment and the remote environments due to the pandemic?
Oh, well, I don't know about you, but sometimes I got a little burnt out with Zoom meetings. So to be mindful of how many events you do go to, or how many meetings you go to. If you need a break, you need a break. That's completely fine. Everyone understands that. So when Julie was mentioning, she made a joke about, well, if you're in 6 different groups, that might be a little too much. And that's what happens with the Zoom fatigue. So with online, that's why I like LinkedIn. It's my online business card, and it's such an easy way to just give people a link and connect. And then you don't have to remember people's email addresses. I'm not sure if there's another thing that I think we're just doing the best we can. I think it's the other thing is we're just doing the best we can, and we'll get through this. It won't necessarily be online forever.
Julie, any tips?
I don't have any tips because I 100% prefer in person. The virtual, I do love that I don't have a commute. I had a 1-hour commute to my BNI group at 7:30 in the morning. So I'd have to leave my house at 6:30 to get there on time.
Right.
So I don't miss that, but it's the personal connection that I super miss. So no tips on that, sorry.
Now, if
Yeah,
can
I would just add, when you can meet in person, do. When it's the appropriate time, because when you meet all these people online and then you meet them in person, it takes a relationship to a whole nother level. Like, I've met people through Twitter, through Instagram, and we would direct message each other. And pre-COVID, we would meet up for coffee. They were in the neighborhood, so we meet up for coffee. And so we already did that, the small talk type of conversation already online. And then when you're in person, you could just get right to the meat of business.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That it helps establish that introduction that you did, so we can jump in. I was going to say earlier that one tool for me to stay in the game, so to speak, especially for, I have to confess, I love this format. I mean, of course, meeting in person is the best, but in the meantime, like, this has been working really well for me. But for motivation, what I try to do is try to spice it up for myself and intentionally meet someone like really far away, someone who I couldn't meet in person or be very difficult. And that just keeps me motivated and sort of like, approaching it from a different perspective. Anyways.
That's a great point. My latest client is in Latvia.
See, right? I mean, it's really great. And I have another question. Oh yeah, this is a really good question. It's about making referrals. So if you have two really good candidates for a single target, like, how do you manage that?
Julie, you want to take that one?
Well, in our profession, we do have to give 3 referrals. But when I am doing the introduction, I am talking the number 1 person on my list. I'm giving them my personal testimonial and just saying, everyone else is on the list for a reason. And, we get feedback from customers who we pass this list to. So those 3 are on there for a reason. So that's basically just for our industry, because some industries you can't necessarily disclose, right? Like for my estate planning attorney, if I refer someone to them, they can't tell me if that person called. So it kind of depends on the industry. I don't know if it's different for Gail.
Not in my industry, but there are definitely industries where it's because of professional ethics, they do have to give several recommendations. And it might be just the person too. Like, I know they like to make their own choice. I know they want to cover all bases. So that could be a reason to give them a couple of choices. When I have 2 or 3 excellent people, I'll just let them know they're both good and they're different. If they are different, hopefully they are different. They're different in this way. And I'll just let you decide which is best for you.
And I also try to do the interview and see what's the best fit, right? Because sometimes some personalities don't match up as much, or they say, hey, they're both were great, but I really felt more comfortable with this person. So I usually leave it as let them make the choice.
That's right. Get more people in the mix and have them decide. There is a question about the very headline grabbing Clubhouse, but I think it can also be all right. So one specific to Clubhouse, has that led to any actual generation of into your networks? And then as a corollary, how soon do people jump into the adoption of new technology?
I like to jump on as soon as I can, because I like to reserve my name. I like having my name as soon as possible. I might not use it, but at least I have my name. I think it's especially important if you are branding yourself personally. Maybe someday you're going to be an author, someday you're going to be a keynote speaker. It'd be nice to grab your name. And regarding Clubhouse, I hear good and bad regarding that new platform. What's great about it is that it's live and people can hear voices, so it fills some of that connection need. But you don't have to have the Zoom fatigue because of how our eyes process video. Our eyes and our brain process the video. So it could be something where, I mean, if it's useful for you, great. I have heard people being able to get business from it. I'm not sure in terms of jobs and opportunities in that way, but I think it's another fun tool that's out there. I've also heard it can be a big, not a time waste exactly, but it's so interesting that people keep hopping on it forever and ever. So it's just one of those things.
I've heard that as well. I do not utilize Clubhouse because I'm too busy and I don't have the time. I did what Gail did, reserve the put in my profile. I do have one of the ladies in my networking group that is a speaker, and she's looking for speaking engagements and also writing a book. And she's been making headway in Clubhouse. So she loves it. So she did a little talk about it for one of my other networking groups. But I think it depends on, who you're trying to connect with as well.
Yeah, it's very popular in the tech field. And I've heard it's also popular with podcasters.
Oh, yes. That's right. That makes sense. Yeah, there's another question about how do you practice, because, yeah, how do you practice, I guess is the question.
How do you practice it?
Well, I think the question means it's a very specific situation. Like you have to meet a group of people in a networking group, but then when you're gone, you can't really practice. So then how do you practice to prepare for the networking? How do you get better at networking?
I do like to practice my introduction. So being able to, when I introduce myself, just being able to say it without having to stumble or think about what I'm going to say next. So that would be one way to practice. In practice in connections or introductions, I think I'm the kind of person who would say something out loud by myself, kind of like practicing a speech. I would probably recite it out loud just to myself before I actually made the phone call or connection. Now, that's not possible if you're in the moment and maybe you are in person, or maybe you're on Clubhouse or something live. That may not be possible, but I think people get better the more they do it too.
I'm like Gail. I practice out loud. I practice whatever I'm going to say for my BNI group. When I was driving for an hour, I'm like, okay, let me see if this sounds good. The other piece is have a leads networking group that you can practice your what you're looking for, who's a good connection, and not saying the same thing every week, being innovative and thinking of unique things, right? Because that's going to help people know what to look for, or there might be a situation that week and there might be a light bulb and say, hey, you know what? I heard that you're looking for this and I want to do the introduction for you.
Groups where they allow you to speak every time, like Toastmasters in particular, where they will put you on the spot and they have a table topic, and whatever that topic is, you've got to talk about it for 5 minutes. So those kinds of environments, if you want to push yourself out of the comfort zone and get better at speaking, and especially in an impromptu situation, those could be great opportunities to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Getting out of your comfort zone. You can't grow if you're not a little bit uncomfortable now and again. Yeah, those are actually good tips, and I think it is valuable. I think people discount the value of actually practicing and hearing yourself and working through the words. That is true. So there are a couple more questions. One is, people want to know, what is the best way to reach you? Number one, I know that you had your contact information on one of the end slides, end caps for your presentation. And then also people want to know if they can reach you through LinkedIn. So if you could maybe drop in your LinkedIn page.
Perfect. Do you want me to just reshare that contact page one more time?
Yeah, actually, could you share it while we're talking? And
I have it.
Yeah, I'm Gail, not everywhere, because I got my name. on all the socials.
Okay.
I think there's another Gail Knott in the Midwest who
Is
probably
there?
doesn't like me,
Oh.
but
There's one other. So that's their contact information, everybody. You can, do a screen capture or, write it down. And then also Gail has dropped her LinkedIn portal page in the chat. And then we'll bug Julie to do that before the end of the event. Okay, also related to the question about practicing, someone wants to know how important is a elevator pitch, and how do you keep it from being so canned?
I think people tend to go with templates, and then once you have the template, you could play around with it. I liken it to, you learn chords first and you learn scales, and then you can learn to improv from that. So some templates for introducing yourself could be, if you want to get a little bit different, it could be, how some people do this. That's why I like to do this differently. And then you go into your name and your profession. So that could be one kind of template, and that's a little different. But it may not necessarily be canned, but they are, I would recommend you practice it. Another way to make it different so it's not canned is people who use cliches. I think that makes it a little canned. So I'm the best at this, or you won't get a better deal anywhere else. Any of those corny advertisement type slogans, that's where I think it sounds canned. If you're just introducing yourself as who you are, it's going to be authentic, and it'll feel real. It'll be real.
And I also try to know your audience, right? So I have like a simple template, maybe for like business owners. I have a template if I'm talking to a mom with kids, because that's all the different hats that we as business owners use, right? So just make sure you're knowing your audience and not using the same template, but you can kind of pick and choose pieces that would speak to the person that's in front of you.
Oh yeah, those are good ways to frame it out. That is really good. Okay, I think I've reached the end of questions that I received.